Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another Let's Skill Up podcast where my partner in crime, Charles Fellingham, and I have jam sessions about training best practices, lessons learned, talk about our battle scars, not physical scars, fortunately, and we talk about how we can deliver training that drives actual change. So, welcome, Charles. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm anxious to talk about this topic in particular.
This topic in particular is opening a session. We know the importance of opening a session, right? People are at the very beginning of whether we're virtual or in person, they're thinking, is it worth my time? So, from your perspective, Charles, what are some lessons learned or how do you approach opening a session?
Yeah, mainly motivation. This is all about getting people enthused about the topic. And you do that with your personal energy. You do that with the words you use. Brevity is good, powerful, precise, persuasive, all of that. So open, strong. That's my main point.
What would you say are some common pitfalls that you see when you see trainers opening a session?
Yeah, they haven't memorized their opening. You should know exactly how you're going to open. I do it pretty much the same way every time. If it's live, I'll say, hello, everybody, greetings, welcome. If we have our way, this will be fast-paced, fun, interactive. You're going to learn a lot today about, and then I preview the topic, and then I introduce myself. Hello, I am. If it's a virtual session, I pretty much the same thing, but I'll say, hello, I am, and then I'll say, now I'd like to introduce our technical producer. And I'll have them do that. And then I'll say, if everybody's ready to, if it's a virtual program, say, if everybody's ready to go, then give me a thumbs up in the reactions, flood the zone, you know what to do. And that sort of gets people involved right away.
Exactly. Try to get their engagement right as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
I noticed you mentioned that you didn't introduce yourself immediately, right?
immediately.
What are some common approaches that you have seen to opening a session? Which ones work really well? Which ones don't work really well? What would you say?
Well, when you open a session, you should preview what, sort of like a purpose and a benefit to them. Definitely. After that, I say as quickly as you can into the session, get them talking to each other. If they're sitting there for 20 minutes while you're delivering content at the opening, the energy is going to plummet. So get them to, sometimes I'll go, all right, so as I'm looking at a live session, I'm looking around the room, raise your hand if you're sitting next to somebody you like. And then they'll laugh, and then they'll look around, and some people will cross their arms and go, oh, I don't think I like this person. And so you get them sort of in a good mood right at the beginning too.
Exactly. Try to get them engaged, make it a safe environment for them to want to participate, right?
Yep,
On the other
absolutely.
side, I've seen, and I've done this too, right? Where we start a session with, "Hi everyone, so we're here today to talk about," and we maybe go through the agenda immediately, go through the objectives immediately. They're on the slide, right?
Yeah.
And why is this risky, let's say, to take this approach?
Yeah, it's just so predictable. Let's go to the agenda, let's go to the objectives. Then you're bullet by bullet rolling down a slide, and they're going, oh my gosh, it's another one of those. When, tell a story right up front, or make a comment to something that was said during that 10 minutes before the session when you were having a conversation with somebody. Sort of make that connection personally as best you can.
Exactly. Make it real, right? Make it relevant to them. This is where our planning and our prep has to come into play.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you think about when you are prepping for a session and building your hook, let's say your first few minutes to open the session?
We've talked about relevance in a prior podcast. That needs to come in early. Why this? Why you? Why now? And the sooner the better with that. And if you can incorporate it into, the first paragraph of your opening, you're going to be better off.
Completely agree. Can you think of a specific moment that you've seen in your trainings or somewhere else where you've seen your participants say, yes, I'm in? What have you done? What happened in that moment to reach that result?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I generally do when I'm doing a leadership training that might be a leadership immersion. I'll go think of a leader that you respect and admire and why. Write their name down. And then at your group, in a small group, let's go ahead and create a list of things that leaders do that you respect and admire from, as each of the people in the small group describe who they chose. And this seems to get a nice response because now people's minds are baked into leadership right from the get-go. And I've got them thinking about a successful example that they can emulate. So I think anytime that you can allow them to visualize success in a general sense of what you're going to be covering, you're going to have a win.
Nice. I think one of mine, I delivered a workshop relatively recently with some learning and development professionals and kicked off the session with, so what are some of our challenges that we're encountering today? I know that we're encountering a lot. Let's just name a few. Which ones come top of mind? We mentioned things like having less budget, having less resources,
Yep.
having to prove to our leadership the return on investment, and then said, okay, today we'll be talking about how to effectively measure the various initiatives that we're running in learning and development.
Yeah.
And then how might this help us to navigate those challenges? If we move the needle a little bit on those challenges that we're trying to navigate, would our time have been worth it today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Identify pain, identify a gap, and then make the commitment that you're going to close the gap or reduce the pain. Yeah.
Exactly. The key, of course, is at the end of the session to loop back and say, we have these challenges.
Yeah.
How did we do? What have we learned that help us to navigate these challenges? We
Yeah.
have to hold ourselves accountable.
And I like that. Open in such a way where you can sort of tie the bow at the end and bring it all together. Yeah.
Exactly. The goal is make it immediately relevant to their work, right?
Yeah.
Immediately relevant to their lives. And what better way to do that than asking them in the
Right.
moment, getting them to voice it. We don't have to tell them, they already know. We just need to facilitate that conversation.
So I did want to make a point of interest at we're talking about openings, and there are times when one of the leaders wants to do an opening, and they'll come in and they'll hopefully spend just a couple of minutes giving context for leadership support of the training. But if you have not had a chance, you don't know who it is and you don't know what their style is and you haven't had a chance to talk to them, just be prepared for anything. I did a one of these recently where the leader took up about 20 minutes of the part, just wanted to wave his flag. So just be agile, be prepared for anything. But if you can get to the person who's opening for you as a leader and say, we're running a tight schedule, so I'm really looking forward to just a couple of minutes of your content.
Nice. Digging in there in that situation, what did that 20-minute intro do to the engagement, the vibe in the room? What did you see?
Because he had kind of a Q&A. Which was fine. I mean, at least it was interactive, but it caused me to have to really abbreviate at some point in the morning how I was going to tackle delivering all the content. So that's where
How much time total did you have for the session?
It was a half day. Yeah. So it was a rush.
Mm-hmm. When we have things planned down to the minute, right? We know exactly what needs to happen when.
Right.
And then we start with a deficit.
I'm a big fan of starting on time. Don't loiter or linger and start late. I'm start on time, finish on time, never be late.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if people expect that, the top of the hour, your mind's, the alarm's going off in your mind, just jump right in. And that way it tells people, I respect your time.
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit about virtual versus in-person. We have talked a little bit about it, but to delineate a little bit more between the two, what would you say are some differences in how you go about your openings when it's virtual versus in-person?
Yeah, so I like to get people, because you want to get them interactive. I like to get people using the chat as quickly as possible. Usually in a virtual session, there's a rules of the road kind of a slide. And it's just the benign stuff. Put your distractions away, and but this is where I say I like to create a stream of consciousness while we're having this workshop, and that's going to be in the chat line. So use it to just speak out and reward each other for doing that. I mean, offer your own quotes and inspiration and questions and thoughts, references, and I get people doing it as quickly as possible right away.
What's one of your go-to questions or directions that you give to get people into the chat as quickly as possible?
Yeah, so, for instance, if the topic is on handling challenging conversations, I'll say, so as part of your pre-work, you're to identify a challenging conversation with somebody that you're going to be coaching. I'd like for everybody right now to just type the initials of that person. 100% participation, everybody plays. And then I'll say, Karie, tell me about LH. You don't have to name names, but just tell me about that person. And all of a sudden, I've told them a couple of things. One is they're going to be using chat. It's going to be purposeful. And once they put something in chat, they've given me permission to call on them. So the earlier you start with that, the better off you're going to be.
Exactly. Really driving that, not only the engagement, but the accountability, right? They
Right.
are here with a purpose. We are all here with a purpose. Let's lean into it and make the most of our time together.
Right. It makes another point. If you've asked them to do pre-work, bring it up early. It rewards the people who did it. I'm never one to think that everybody did, because I do live real in the room. But I will bring it up early. Hey, there was pre-work and here's what it was. We'll give you a soft place to fall if you weren't able to complete it to your 100% to your liking. We'll give you an opportunity to do that as we go. So I let people sort of know we're going to be referring to it, and I'm going to give them a soft place to fall.
Nice, nice. I like to do something similar when it is a continuation from a previous session to get kicked off, whether this is virtual or in person, almost as quickly as we can to the top of the hour with, all right, now we're going to move into breakouts or form groups of 2 or 3 and discuss how did we apply what
Yep.
we learned last time, right? Or last time we said that we were going to do this
Yep.
between the sessions. What
Yep.
did we learn from putting that into practice? And
Yeah.
that also helps to drive that accountability and to thread the link, build the link between the sessions.
Yeah. It's so important that we do that, that we carry it further than just the first thought, the initial thought, and get them to think deeper and speak out.
Mhm.
So important. Also, another topic that I think of as of import is sometimes you'll do sessions where not everybody in the room knows everybody, and you have a choice. Do I do introductions or not? And, in a virtual session, it takes time. I'd like for, in a minute or less, introduce yourself, where you're located, what your role is. And I'd say in a virtual session, if you've got 12 or less people, the timing usually works out. If you've got more, it can be perilous to take up that much time. So if it's a virtual session and you've got 15 or 20, I'd say as we go into the breakout, please introduce yourself to people in the room and build that network and just have them do it there.
Exactly. Because too, you said perilous, right? Because the risk is we could potentially lose people, especially virtual. People
Yeah.
start to think, oh, I'm getting this email, I'm getting this notification, I can take advantage of these few minutes, right?
Yeah.
To multitask, to quote unquote multitask. Um, I think my final thought around opening a session is what we're competing against. And in today's world, we're not just competing against other trainers, we're competing against other presenters, of course. We're also competing against other entertainment, right? Other things that can capture our audience's attention. So at the very, very beginning, within the first few sentences, we need to say, how can I hook my audience? How can I compete against movies, right? How can I compete against TikTok? How can I compete against all of these other channels that our participants engage with and get them to engage with me and the other participants in this room as quickly as possible? Otherwise, again, we risk losing them.
Right. Keep
How
the
about
energy
for
up.
you?
No dead time. keep the energy up. Say something, thoughtful. Get them to engage, ask them, have everybody participate, and reward the ones who do. And if you haven't heard somebody right at the very beginning speak out or open up, invite them to, and let them know early on this is going to be interactive, and I'm going to notice if you're not involving yourself in this.
Exactly. Build in that accountability, right?
That's right. Yep.
Well, Charles, just like always, this has been a fantastic jam session. I love talking about our lessons learned, what works, what doesn't work, what we've learned from. There's plenty more to come. So, everyone, if you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to follow us in this current channel and take a look at our Let's Skill Up website, where you will see plenty of tips and tricks on how to drive, again, not only an impactful learning session or impactful training, but drive results through your trainings.
Be sure to download our playbook.
Download our playbook. It's full of a wealth of knowledge from our previous experiences. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
So long.